I'm just going to jump into this. Now that we've talked about Chex Quest.
Yes.
Now that we've gotten that out the way. I want to tell you a tale of peril. A tale of woe that that we experienced a few weeks ago as a family. Now, before we kind of get into my story, Pete, you're an relatively experienced camper.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so I grew up in upstate New York where the woods are vast. And, as I said previously, we weren't poor, we weren't rich, but camping outside was a very affordable way to spend some time on vacation. My father's always been huge into camping. He's had tents, pull-behinds, and he just recently upgraded to a full-on, big old, multiple slide-out RV that he's taking on a 3-month cross-country tour. So he
That's
is
cool.
very familiar with camping, and by proxy, I would spend multiple weeks every summer camping in any and all forms.
That's cool, man. I was in Boy Scouts, so I did my fair share of camping when I was a young lad. I enjoyed it. I think mostly because I was with kids of my own age, away from the house, and it was fun though, going on hikes and in tents and campfires and all the rest of it.
Plus, they give you a knife. I mean, what's better than that? A young child with a knife, you could sharpen a stick. It's really all we could ask for.
It's true. You had a weapon at our side that was very handy. Had to get my toten chit, as they called it. That was you had to get that thing to use the knife properly. And then there was a fire one as well, so you can use fire safely.
Oh, yes.
But, oh my gosh, I could tell you Boy Scout stories too. Oof.
Oh, listen, I can do the same thing.
Oh, were you in Boy Scouts?
I finished right before Eagle Scout. I moved out of New York when I was a Life Scout, and I just had my final project, and I'm like, you know what? I'm 16. It's not cool anymore.
Nope. You got to do it before you're 16, or else now it's like college admissions and senioritis, and it's like, I don't want to do a service project.
Of course.
And that was the end of that for me as well. I was a Life Scout as well. So I spent a good amount of time camping as a kid, and then once I, turned 18 and I went to, college in Newark, New Jersey, where there's barely a tree, never mind a campsite, that quickly fell off, and that was kind of the end of camping until 2 weeks ago. When my wife, she wanted to go camping for a while. I was open to the idea. I've said this on numerous, maybe not sure, maybe this show, but other shows that I find the outdoors rather inconvenient. It's lovely, but it's inconvenient.
Oh, it's terribly inconvenient. You have to bring everything with you.
They don't give you anything. And when I go on vacation, I want to avoid inconvenience. I want to accept convenience. I want convenience as much as humanly possible.
Oh, yes. You want to open whatever pantry door you need, and everything is right there for you.
Everything's right there. I walk into a hotel, and somebody who's paid a decent, hopefully a good wage, says, "Hello, Mr. Tucker," or "Hello, how are you?" I say hello back, and then they leave me alone. And then I go to my room where everything's clean, to the best of their ability and to the best of my knowledge. And I'm aware I have to kind of suspend my disbelief on how clean those rooms actually are, but I do.
Oh, yes.
And I have a fine time, and I go to restaurants, and I go to like museums and concerts and arcades because I'm a giant child.
I mean, you go on vacation to relax and enjoy yourself. You don't go to be
exactly
full of activities.
We like activities, but the outdoors again is inconvenient because there's creatures that make that their home. See, when I go outside, I'm invading a creature's home. That's how I see it, and they have every right to kick me out of their home. No problem. So they are all fighting against me. The nature is actively fighting against me when I do anything outdoorsy. So I'm not an outdoorsy type. It's just not my thing. But we decided to go camping. So we were going to get tents and do the tent thing. My wife, a few months earlier, went to a campsite with a friend. I did not go. I don't remember why. She went with my son, and they went camping in tents with a friend who's an experienced camper. They borrowed a tent from another friend of ours, and it had a leak, and it rained almost the entire time. They woke up at 2 a.m. with standing water in the tent.
Mm-hmm. Always happens. There is no such thing as a waterproof tent. It doesn't exist.
See? Terribly terribly inconvenient, especially at 2 a.m. They couldn't start a fire because everything was super wet. I probably could have started a fire in the moisture, but that's just me. I'm just saying. So they had a rough time, but Jane wanted to try it again. So we have a friend, and when I talk about this piece of equipment that they lent us, I'm not trying to cast shade on our friend. They were very kind to let us borrow it. It's still sitting in my driveway.
Oh boy.
We have to return it at some point. But they let us borrow a pop-up camper. A pop-up. Now,
let's just take a moment.
Yes, yes.
A pop-up camper. Not quite a full pull-behind rig, but not quite a tent. Basically a tent on wheels.
Yes. It is essentially a tent on wheels. You do have to pull it. Our van is, we have a Honda Odyssey. When we purchased it, we got the extra towing package, so we can tow 3,500 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
It has a tow hitch on it. It has a roof rack. We have a coffin, that goes on top of the roof rack. Like, that thing, it's decked out to go places. Like, it really can. And we are able to tow this thing with no problem. But it has the tow hitch, which is a whole other story.
Was this your first time towing anything?
Yes. This was my first time towing thing. Jamie has towed things before, but it's been many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
I had never towed anything because I lived in New York, and everything I owned probably could fit inside this dopey little camper. And I didn't have a car, so there was no towing,
of course,
needed.
See, now you would have been better off as a like a backpack camping. So I feel as if you would have done very well with a tent. Just get your little tent, your sleeping roll, your sleeping pad. You're good to go.
Yeah, well, it might have been better than this. So they went to, so we get the, James comes home with the camper we borrowed from a friend. This thing's about 20 years old. I actually looked it up based on like its model number. It was made in 2002.
Oh, yes.
It's been through some of the wars. Like this thing, it has a lot of broken pieces. Like it has a little kitchenette, but nothing works. Like the stove doesn't work. It's been through some stuff. And again, I'm not casting shade on it because it was very generous of our friend to let us borrow this thing.
Of course, yes. Shout out to your friend. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mark, for letting us borrow it. Genuinely appreciate it. We had an experience that I can tell stories about, which, you know what? At the end of the day, if you can tell a story about it,
that's all that life is.
That's it. And I was telling work friends about this on like one of our stand-up meetings, and they were dying. They were and these are all Texans, mostly Texans at this point. And they were just over the moon, chuckling along to this escapade. Hopefully you are too. So we get the pop-up camper. James knows how to open it up. Mark showed her how to do it. We open it up first, like in the driveway. Like, hey, let's open this up. Let's make sure we know how to do it. It's neat. Like you get a little crank and you stick it in the back of this thing and you gotta go, and the whole top of it just raises to the air. And it's all like fabric, like you say, canvas tent material. And there's a little couch and a little dinette and there's a little kitchen area. And then you have to pull out beds from either side, the front and back. So you kind of go back and you pull these beds out, had little mattresses on them, and you put up the tent. It took us about maybe 45 minutes, maybe less, to like get it constructed. Like, okay, this is not bad. This is neat.
You're looking not bad. It's the first time. That's almost impressive.
Yeah, like maybe 45 minutes, right? But we didn't like secure everything. It was just to make sure we could get everything open, right? And we're like, this is neat. This might work. This might actually be kind of fun. There's an air conditioner in it.
Oh, which that's clutch.
It's in Texas. You have to. You have to.
Oh, yes.
So we had air conditioners. I was happy. I'm like, we'll have AC. It's great. So we hook this thing up and we go to a lake. It's the same camp area that my wife went a few months earlier. But this time we decided to get a spot right on the lake, like right next to the lake. That way we can just go down a little hill, put our little feeties in the water. Will can splash around.
That's great.
Yeah.
With two little ones? Oh, you couldn't ask for more.
Oh, no. Well, you could ask for a lot more, but I will continue to that. So we go to the lake, towing this thing. Towing was fine. No problem. And we get to the area, we unhitch, we pull everything out. Now, we realized the first time we pulled everything out, we were alone. Both kids were in daycare/school. We were alone. And it was fine. It is not fine when you have two small children sitting around doing nothing.
Oh boy.
And we overpacked. I mean, we had everything. We had a little like plastic tub to fill with water in case kids wanted to splash around and not walk on rocks.
Mm-hmm.
We had chairs, and a few days before we actually trimmed some tree branches, I sat there with a hatchet and cut up kindling to make my fire. That's all I want to do is make my fire properly.
That's basic man instinct. Fire.
Yes, I had small kindling, bigger kindling, and large kindling, and then I had like logs I bought from the store.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm gonna build a real fire. Damn it. The car/trailer, the kindling did not make it. We kind of forgot it. It was just sitting there at the side.
Oh boy.
I think it's still sitting there. But I bought like fire logs, like just like fire starters, just in case, you know. So anyway, so we go here, and it took us like well over an hour to get this thing pulled off because this bed was sticking and that bed was sticking. As we pulled out the bed, the tent fabric has, it's all connected with zippers.
Yes.
It pulled the zipper the opposite direction.
Oh no.
And it went, so the zipper wouldn't close because now the zipper is in the opposite direction like you would do with a jacket.
Oh.
So where's James sitting there? I'm like, can we just get some tape and tape it shut? My wife's like, no, we cannot. So my wife, being, MacGyver, I have to go to the grocery store 3 miles down the road and get a sewing kit. And she repaired it. Like she actually repaired the zipper. Like she undid the thing and then redid a thing. Mind you, of course, it's this summer in Texas. It's 100 degrees out.
Yeah.
Through all this excellent.
Well, with two little kids running around.
Right. Well, just actually they're not running so much as melting. They're just kind of like just melting there. So we finally get it. It's like 6 o'clock. We cook up some we brought charcoal, we cook up some charcoal, there's a little grill there. And next to the grill, there's like a wooden pavilion with like 2 tables in there. Like a wooden area. So it wasn't completely out in the middle of nowhere. And again, this is like a campsite where there's like, if you look down the road, there's 5 campers. Right? You're not in your own little private section. You're amongst other people.
Okay.
You have neighbors.
Yeah, that's fine.
It is fine.
Sure, there's like a little like a little playground area as well.
No, there wasn't that. There was none of that. I wish that would have been lovely. No, at least as far as I know. This was just like this was an old, I think, army base, I think, that they made into like a campsite on the lake. So most people are there for aquatic activities like jet skiing. They take their boat out. That's what most people are there for. We have none of those things. So we were just kind of there. Just there.
Just to be there. To sit next to the lake.
To sit next to the lake. And so Will could put his little feeties in. So we're there. Dinner went okay. I don't know what happened. Like something was pressurized, like the mustard splatter. It was just one of those things where, again, everything was inconvenient, but it was fine.
Now,
everything
you
was
mentioned
good.
the kitchenette was not working in the pop-up, so you had to cook like in the little communal cooking area?
We cooked on the grill.
Okay.
So we had a grill, and we also brought a gas grill as well. We have a little camping propane grill that we brought with us. So we have one of those. We brought it with little propane canisters. That was fine. That was more than enough to do what we needed to do.
Okay, that's good.
So yeah, it was fine. So we have so we're putting things together. We're cooking up bratwurst. It was good. It was fine. Everything's good. I light a fire. I make my fire. We was so windy next to the lake, which becomes a crucial part of this story coming up. The fire was hard to set because I couldn't get anything started because it's windy by a lake.
Oh boy.
I didn't know it gets windy by lakes. Did you know it gets windy by lakes?
I live on a lake. It gets terribly windy.
It gets terribly windy. So of course you know this. You know this experience. I don't know this. So I finally get the fire started. I had to use the fire starters. I didn't have my kindling,
and
it wouldn't have worked. The kindling. It wouldn't. It was when I was trying to set up a TP with what I could find. I'm like, I know how to do this. So
that's a rookie mistake. In wind, you just need to go with the log cabin.
See, to the cabin. Mm-hmm. That was the other technique I was going to use, but I didn't have my kindling, so it was all for naught. Luckily, the fire starters, I had enough small pieces of wood available to get things going. I had a nice fire going, like nice, really good.
That's good.
My son and my daughter, they're playing around the fire. I'm trying to tell a 1.5-year-old, please don't touch the flames. I don't know. I know where the nearest hospital is, but I don't want to go there. But they're dancing around, they're having fun. I sit down in my camping chair, and all I want to do is stare at my fire, because in the end, we are still Cro-Magnons, and fire is good.
It's true.
I just want to sit and look at the fire and smell the smoke and just sit. And of course, children don't let you sit. It's impossible. You can't. There's no sitting when there's children involved.
No sitting, and I think no silence, correct?
No silence, no sitting. It's unless there's a show going on. And we brought like iPads and stuff for them to watch. But I was adamant going into this. They were not going to sit there and watch iPads while camping, because you can do that at home.
And that is true.
You can do that at home. You can don't go camping and stare at your phone and iPads all day. That's against the spirit of the adventure. Right?
You're outside. Granted, you're melting outside, but it is important to be outside.
True. I mean, it is true. I mean, not to say they didn't get some showtime on the second day. So everything's going pretty good. They got the campfire going. It's around like 8:30. We brought Gwen, who's my daughter, for those who don't know. We brought Gwen's pack and play with us. So we kind of set that up on one of the mattresses. And then we brought like a blanket to put between my son and my daughter. So either one couldn't see each other. It's kind of separated on the one bed. And then my wife and I slept on the other bed opposite theirs. And it was fine. It took them forever to get to sleep because it's camping. It's
camping. It's a new environment. It's difficult for kids to fall asleep there.
Which is fine. I really had no problem with it. It's like 10 o'clock and I hear my son giggling still because he's making faces at Gwen from underneath the blanket. But those are memory things. Like I'm actually okay with that. Like that's fun. That's fine. Those are little bonding moments. I'm cool with that. My wife and I had a lovely time. We played Trivial Pursuit, in the little thing. And, James, my wife's having some wine. I'm having my non-alcoholic beer.
There you go.
It was fine. We're having a good time. I sat by the fire for a bit. A tarantula showed up, which you would have thought
nope. Burn it down.
Nope.
Burn the whole thing down.
That's it. Going home. Hack it up. My wife had the presence of mind to just shine a light on him, and the tarantula looked at us and said, all right, and just walked away. Completely ineffectually just walked away. But now, of course, I'm looking over both shoulders the entire time while trying to answer questions about 1800s literature, because we have this really hard set of Trivial Pursuit that we acquired from someplace.
Oh boy.
And so we're having a good time. Everything is going pretty good. It was an inconvenient start, but everything's going all right. And then we try to go to sleep.
Oh, here's the hard left I'm waiting for.
Here's the hard left. We start to go to sleep. And as I stated before, this camper is not new.
Mm-hmm.
We secured it the best we knew how. We went through the instructions, but you have to put pieces of wood underneath this pylon, and this thing has to connect to this thing. We did the best we could. The wind coming off of this lake was making our camper tent go thwop, 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 thwop. The whole night this thing was going thwop, 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 and it was starting to list either way.
Oh, yeah.
It was starting to sway, and that made my wife very nauseous.
Oh no, especially after a couple glasses of wine.
All night it did this. All night. Every once in a while we'd hear, and then Gwen starts screaming at 4 a.m. Because the entire thing's going whop, 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 whop.
Of course, and it's not quiet.
My wife.
What?
No, it is loud and unending. Because I didn't realize that on the lake. Now, the nice thing about the wind is that it kept the bugs away for the most part.
Yes.
Except for wasps and such. But it kept us awake all night. So we get up. It's 8 o'clock. I'm trying to sleep a little extra. The thing is still going whop, 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 whop. James takes them for a little hike down the road and back.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's tired. We're hot. James makes some eggs, and we are now just in misery town. We are just miserable. And we look up and down the strip, and everyone's got these literal tour buses.
Oh,
They're tour buses.
These giant monstrosities.
You must need a bus driver license to drive some of these campers. It's nonsensical. And and Will's like, that's a nice camper. That's a nice camper. William, that is literally a mobile home. That is something Aerosmith drives in to go to concerts.
It really is. Multiple bathrooms. You're talking TVs inside and outside.
And outside, our neighbor had a TV outside with a little sink on the outside that they kind of popped out. And they're all having a good time to come back with their jet skis. And I'm like, see, you people like the outdoors. I don't particularly like the outdoors. I like the inside where it's convenient.
Well, they're doing something more that I refer to as glamping. It's camping, yes, but it's all the luxuries of just living at home. Just the ability to step out and, as you said, step right onto your jet ski on the lake.
Right. And that was the goal for most people on this adventure. So it got to like noon. I forget if we even ate like a lunch. All Will wants to do is go to the lake. I want to go in the lake. So we go down the lake and he's having a good time. Like he's in the water. He's playing in the waves. We're throwing rocks. The entire lake, of course, is covered in rocks. So I try to step on there with bare feet.
Oh, good luck.
I'm getting lacerated. Yeah. Oh, no, it was not happening. So but now, mind you, it's 100 degrees and we're on a lake and light reflects off of lakes.
No
so you're
shade.
Just getting baked.
Oh.
No, like a convection oven. It was horrible. So we're in like 1:30. Jamie comes down with my daughter, who's not wearing her hat. We have special hats, like sun hats.
Oh, boy.
She's not wearing her hat. And she's like, Bill, I cannot spend another night in that camper with it listing left to right, going wop, 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 wop. So we decided to leave a day early because we had paid for an extra night. It was supposed to be a 2-night, 3-day trip. We punched out, Maverick. We punched out. We get all the kids back up. We're loading up the car. We're like, Will, we're going home. He's like, why? We're like, because the whole thing went wop, wop, wop all night.
Yeah, of course, because you need to sleep at night.
Sleep is important, son. And he actually slept for a bit. But he's 6. He has nothing but energy. Like he is a internal combustion energy. He doesn't stop.
Just constantly going. To be that young again. Oh boy. I'm jealous.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, a little bit. Although I don't know. Yeah, it's just constant. It sounds exhausting. Just having energy sounds exhausting. So we're like, no, we're gonna pack. We're going home. We'll go get dinner on the way home. So now we're trying to put this thing back together. This heinous, and because there's no refrigerator, like there was a little mini fridge that came with that they had you plug in outside, and of course it had water and electricity next to it. Obviously, we're trying to get this thing down. And it was just hell getting it back together. Getting it apart was fine. It took a while, but it was fine. And the kids are just sitting there. Gwen is screaming because she's cranky and bored. William is cranky and bored. And they're just sitting there on the pavilion at these wooden tables. I'm dodging tarantulas. There's bees and wasps. We bought, for this excursion, a electric fly swatter. Have you seen these things?
Yes, I have. You didn't give it to Will, and he could just run around zapping things?
Yeah, I no, because I don't trust him to zap his sister
okay.
with this.
Valid point.
So it actually works pretty neat. I was able to slay a wasp with it. It was pretty cool. But so we had to get the electric fly swatter. And we're putting all this crap back together because we could have moved to another site. We asked the camp master, hey, listen, we realize the error of our ways. We try to sleep next to a lake and there's wind on a lake and we're not in a tour bus. So can we move to another site? And he's like, yeah, there's a few available further in. You can do that. But that would require us to literally pack everything up, move 10 feet and unpack everything. And that wasn't going to happen.
Oh, no.
So
once you make the decision to mentally check out, that's it.
We were punched out, Maverick. So we get this thing together. Things aren't like going back into place as they should. We end up putting a hole in the hull of this thing because we were trying to jam one of the beds into the side, but like something was in the way. Like one of the supports had come on. You kind of click the support into the bottom of the bed from underneath, and then you can push it in. It had released itself, so that little support was like jamming. There's a hole in the hull of this thing that we have to patch and repair before we give it back to him.
Oh.
It's okay. It's one of many patches and repairs that have been done on this, and he was okay with our mistake. It took forever. We're hot. The air conditioning has to go off. It was brutal. And the coup de grace, the coup de grace to all of
Oh,
this.
it gets better.
Is trying to back up a van with a ball hitch on it and secure it to another tiny thing. This was like, ever see like Armageddon?
Oh.
The movie Armageddon,
Yes.
when they try to like get the space shuttle, the spaceship they're on to dock with the space station, but it's this like little ball to this little thing. They do it perfectly the first time. That's what this felt like, but not perfectly the first time.
Now, quick question. Does your van have a little backup cam?
It does, but for some reason it didn't quite. The problem was Jamie was doing the backing up. And I was doing the directions. But it turns out that when you tell people directions,
you have to say it's
left
the opposite
doesn't mean
way.
Left anymore. Everything's opposite unless you're going the opposite way, then it has to be the right way because the wheel turns this way, but the tires turn. So it took us like 8 tries to get this thing hooked up.
So
finally.
There's a trick. If you ever do this again, it's called the thumb trick. You take your right hand and you put it on the bottom of the steering wheel. And whatever direction your thumb is moving, that's the direction in which you want to back up in. That's how your vehicle will back up with the trailer.
That is genius. I never... Okay.
So if you ever do go camping again, and again, I highly recommend glamping, which, with 2 little kids, much easier. You pull into a nice little fancy spot in the woods, and you just walk into a house or a cabin of some sort, and that's it. You don't have to worry about wind blowing down your little tent.
We're about rain giving us standing water.
Exactly.
So the coup de grace to this thing was, so again, we have like, there's a scissor jack we need to do to lift up the front of the camper. So the ball, the hitch, I guess part of it is raised in the air, but we didn't have enough wood because we forgot one of the pieces of wood. So we had to put more. Anyway, so we finally get it in position. It's going down, but it doesn't go down all the way. The scissor jack gets stuck.
Oh no.
Somehow, some way. It got like stuck. So I, in a moment of He-Man machismo, decide to just kick it. But I kicked it. I kicked it not from the side in which we were doing the turning, like the turning of the scissor jack to make it raise up and down. Not from that side, from the opposite side, with me straddling the actual hitch part of this apparatus. So I kick, and I cut my leg about 4 inches on this giant bolt that was sticking out of the hitch somewhere.
Goodness.
So I cut my leg open. It's still scabbed over, and this was 2.5 weeks ago. Scab is just now starting to fall off. Of course, we have no first aid equipment because camping. And so I have a paper towel. So I put the paper towel
and duct tape. You're camping.
Yeah, exactly, right? Just go with what nature gives you. And we finally got it hooked up, and then we drove away, defeated in our camping adventure.
Oh,
and that
not
is
necessarily defeated. No. Look at the positives.
I guess not.
You went out. You brought this pop-up. You were there for a full night. You made fire. Your children had a great time. You as an adult may not have had a great time, but I guarantee you that Will is going to look back at this and say, hey, that was a really fun time.
So I think what we're going to do, we are going to give this one more go. One more shot.
With the pop-up?
We're going to do it. We're going to do it in October. We're not with this pop-up. We shall never step foot in this pop-up again. This pop-up is going back to its owner. Thank you. No, thank you. Well, what people at work after they heard the story said was, you should do what you suggested. You pull up to a place with a cabin that has all the things you need. And then when you're there, plan to do things.
Yes, plan to go outside, plan a hike, go to the lake.
Plan a hike. And we had loose plans, but as we were constructing these plans, in my head I'm going, that's not enough because my son is 6 and he wants to do nothing but move.
Yes.
Constant activity. Because we were looking at our neighbors, and a lot of them were, of course, doing their jet skis and going on the water. A lot of them were just sitting, enjoying the breeze, doing nothing.
Reading a book, drinking a glass of wine, sitting next to the fire.
Sure. Great. Kids don't do that. Kids, it is impossible for a child to do that activity, which is just sit. At least my son, he can't. I think my daughter, when she gets older, may be able to. My son is going to be Mr. Sports. He wants to play basketball. He does taekwondo. He's now, when you go to the arcade, he wants to play all the racing games. He just wants to move fast and burn limitless amounts of energy.
So he's Sonic, basically.
He essentially, yes, I think he's seen pieces of Sonic 2 and it's now his favorite character.
Yeah.
He just wants to go fast. So anyway, so that's, I think, our next trip. You can rent campers, evidently. Like you can rent like more modern ones.
Something a little larger.
That can pull.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe a teardrop that actually has real sides on it. Jane was actually pricing these out before we went, and I think the pricing out ended rather quickly when we came back. And even like little teardrops that our van can pull, like $14,000 for like the basic model. And we're talking about it, and I'm like, I guess people who do this is what they do.
Oh yes.
This is all they do. This is vacation. They drive places and hang out and then go do things. And that's her thing, was like, if we can drive with a camper, instead of spending money on hotel rooms, we can park someplace, camp, and then go places, like go on excursions, go into town. And we went into town because we were right by Georgetown. That's where the lake was. So we went in for lunch. And I'm like, this is great. It's air conditioned. And I didn't have to cook anything. And a person said hi to me and gave me a seat. This is travel, y'all.
That's true. That is vacation, y'all. That's what it should be.
This is vacation. My son. Oh, here we go. So you tell the full story, and then you got to tell the side stories. This is like the side quest part of the journey.
Oh, yes.
So you got on the main quest.
Yes, let's go.
Here's the side quest. So my son, who was all into this idea, and he was still into it. There's a communal bathroom, that has like showers and stalls and, bathroom. I don't know why I explained the bathroom to everybody. Like, we all know what that is. That's common knowledge. But anyway, he goes in the bathroom and he comes running out. Daddy, there's a bug in there. I'm like, yeah, it's a camping.
Yes.
It's a camping.
We're outside in nature.
Bathroom.
There's going to be bugs.
There's going to be bugs. You've watched nothing but Wildcrats since you were 2. You love bugs. You save roly-polies. There's bugs. I don't like it. I'm scared. It's a spider. I'm like, William, just run in. Don't look at the spider. That's the key. Just don't look at them.
It's true.
Because I used to do this when I was in Boy Scouts. I used to go into our big tent, and there'd be like daddy long legs hanging out in there anywhere. You just don't look at them.
Oh, yeah.
You pretend they're not there, and then they're not there. And so I had to like literally push him in. He attempts to go to the bathroom. He comes out in 30 seconds. I'm like, I know you haven't washed your hands. You haven't gone to the bathroom. You haven't gone poop as you've said you need to go. Daddy, I need to go poop. Go in the bathroom. I'm scared. Grr. So I get in the van and I take him to the Randall's supermarket that's $2 down the road to go to the potty. This is what we're doing on our camping adventure. My daughter, she walks down to the little, and my son's like trying to skip rocks. You get a couple skips in. Then again, fun on the lake. That's what you do. So he starts skipping rocks. My daughter starts throwing rocks at him, like winging rocks at him.
Yeah.
And he's just smiling like, Will, you do realize your sister's throwing rocks at you, right? You might want to get out of the way. And he's like, it's okay. I'm like, fine. It's fine. This is fine. As the house is burning. Scars are good. It's character. There's so many levels in the wasps. Just the constant inconvenience of this trip. And we just, again, brought too much stuff. We had like all sorts of things that we never end up using. The big bathtub was the coup de grace, because like, well, maybe if the lake is gross, we'll put some water, and there's a hose there, right? We can just put some water in this tub and let them splash around.
Ah, yes. Drive to a lake to put water in a bucket.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. It's not like there's this giant body of water sitting literally 20 feet away from you.
Of course.
No.
Of course, no.
Bring a basin. That's funny.
Minor inconvenience. Now, did you bring bicycles? Because I think Will is riding a bike, no? See, that was always a classic.
He rides bikes.
Whenever we went camping, it was such a fun time. Because it's something to do. It's a physical activity, and you could be on a bike for a very long time.
This is true, but the hard thing is when we have the little one, because she doesn't ride a bike. So everything we do, we have to factor her into the equation. Like for hiking, we were going to go on like a hike. That was the plan for Monday morning before it got really hot. Get up, eat breakfast, go on a hike. But since no one slept, and I tried to sleep, we all got up too late to do that when it was hot. By the time we got up, it was already starting to get in the 90s.
Oh, yes.
No one wants to hike like that.
No.
But we have like a hiking backpack that Gwen can just sit in. So you can actually sit her into this frame and you can just cart her on your back.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's perfect. We've done it before and it's actually fine. It's fine. We were all prepared for that, but that never quite happened. She took them, walking along the little trail by our campsite, back and forth, tired, hot, just annoyed. But there were, at the end of it all, there were some good times, like you said, Pete. We played Trivial Pursuit, had a really fun time, the two of us. We bought these real cheapo lanterns, though.
Oh boy,
they like $1.50 at like World Market or something.
Battery
They were
powered
just
ones.
Oh yeah, they were horrendous. They were just terrible lamps. So it was kind of like just casting weird reflections. Like it wasn't casting light down where we needed it. It was just casting light around, but not enough around to make anything illuminate. I had a fire. I sat by the fire. My daughter and my son did the fire dance, which was adorable. I think I did post that on Twitter.
Yes.
Them doing the fire dance. If you haven't seen it, it is on Twitter. It's one of the rare pictures of videos I post of my kids on Twitter. So there were high points. Will enjoyed the lake for the hour he was splashing in it. He was letting the waves smack him, as he was sitting down. That was all fun.
All in all, it sounds like a great time. I mean,
other than the fact of not sleeping and tarantulas and heat and getting my leg cut up by a giant bolt and trying to disassemble a camper we had no business attempting to do. So, Pete,
minor inconveniences of life.
Minor inconveniences. What's really convenient? Parking in a hotel parking lot, getting the big cart, you put all your stuff on, and then wheeling it into a nice, cool hotel room.
It's just not the same. It's not the same feel. I think that's...
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's not the same feel. That is a net positive, my friend.
No, but you go camping to go outside to unplug from everything. You said you wanted to limit screen time for your kids. To go out and do things. You don't want to go and sit inside a hotel room, sleep 15 feet away from people with only a wall separating you. Give me a little space. Give me 100 yards.
I did not have 100 yards. We had maybe 20. I don't know. We were close to our neighbors, which was fine. Again, everyone was cool. There was no big deal. Although some jamoke at like 12:30 at night in his monster truck, or her monster truck, I don't know who gendered monster truck it was, but in their monster truck, with their lights, all their lights on, kind of like trying to do, like just stopped in the trail and the lights were directly shining into the camper as the kids are trying to sleep.
Boy.
And we were like, "What are you doing?" Like I walked over, not too close where someone could attack me, but far enough, but close enough where they could see me. Like, give him like the what are you doing hand signal? Like what are you doing? And he had all his lights on, all his lumens, and everything else. It's like, golly. And all I could think about were my friends, my dear friends, who are in the midst of an overlanding journey. Living out of their Jeep.
Oh, yes.
They are now in Nicaragua, I think, and they are going to spend the next 10 years driving around the world.
See, now that's...
With a 5-year-old.
That's taking it to a whole new level. I could at least understand camping, insane. Where you haul your home behind you. But to literally live out of your vehicle?
Yes. This vehicle is a one of a kind in the world. And if you want to check it out, Hourless Life is the blog and the site and on YouTube. It's really incredible the journey they're on. And it's not all sunshine. They're parking in the middle of nowhere, in Nicaragua or, Central America right now. And they have it. I mean, a tornado landed, a mile away from them and broke their awning, and they're in the middle of nowhere. You don't fix that anymore. But their Jeep is ridiculous. They have this awning that kind of covers 3/4 of it that kind of like telescopes out. They have a tent that comes out of the top that sleeps 2 people with AC out with outlets and everything else. They have a refrigerator that slides out from the side.
Oh my goodness.
The thing's ridiculous. It's worth checking out. Hourlesslife.com is the blog and the site. And of course on YouTube, they have lots of videos. Really good people. Close friends of ours who before that were RVing full-time. They RV'd full-time as long as I've known them, and then decided to go on this overlanding adventure. And 10 years. The kid's never going to have an address. He's never had an address and won't until he's 18 or 16 or whatever.
Oh boy,
It's cool. It's really adventurous, but it's not all sunshine. They have their struggles. It's an interesting lifestyle, and very proud of them. For me, couldn't get past 3. Didn't even make 3 days. Didn't
You had
even
a day and a half.
So Pete,
I'm like, that's it.
I made
One
a day
night.
and a half, and I went back to the relative comfort of my home. So Pete, now that you've heard this whole story, you suggested more like glamping, which is like a cabin.
Oh, yes.
What would be your biggest piece of advice for us if we were to do this again? Namely, number one, we'll try again in October when it's not 100 degrees out.
Yes.
What would be your biggest advice for us if we were to try this journey again? What would you suggest?
Let's see. I'd probably suggest glamping until Gwen is 5 or 6, where she could then go into a tent. And don't hate on tents. I slept on the ground a very large portion of my life, and it's why I enjoy sleeping on a very firm mattress now. I don't need creature comforts.
Okay.
No. Just give me a floor and a pillow. That's really all I need. But yeah, I would suggest that glamping is very good because you can go inside and kind of get away from things. It's also different because, here in upstate New York, where I did a lot of my camping, at night it would get cool. So yes, we had air conditioning, but it wasn't a necessity. At night you could open the windows and get a nice cool breeze going through. Down there in Texas, I don't really know if that's possible.
I don't know. Not in the summer. Not when it's 100. And oh my God, the heat. Just terrible. Again, it's one of those things where, heat in Texas can almost get dangerous.
That's true. Yeah.
Young children can get overheated way faster than adults, I believe. I'm not a doctor.
Oh, no, heat stroke is it's a very real thing.
Yeah. So, I look at my daughter, again, she's 1.5 and she's miserable and her face is beet red. It's like, I don't know. And all she wants to do is walk around outside. Like, she wants to explore and touch things, but she didn't want to sit there and she's not like my son, where my son could sit and stare at a TV show for 3 hours. He could sit, for a child who wants to do nothing but run, he's a boy of extremes. He could also sit and watch Octonauts for 3 hours and he won't register a hand wave. My daughter, you get like 20 minutes out of her and she's bored. She wants to do something else.
Have you tried camping just in your driveway? Set up the camper?
I've heard, I have not, but I've heard that actually isn't the worst idea in the world.
No, it's not. Lynn and I we picked up a tent, and for one of our COVID anniversaries, we couldn't travel anywhere, so we picked up a tent, got some sleeping bags, had a little fire right here in the backyard, and spent most of the night outside until it dipped down to below 30 degrees, and we both looked at each other and said, no, we're going back inside.
No. That's funny. That is actually a good suggestion. Just do it in the backyard. Yeah. Our backyard is extremely small, but we have enough where we could put a tent in there. Yeah. And then, or just do the camper like while it's sitting there.
Yeah.
With a hole in it.
I'm telling you, because then it's like a nice little local experience. Yes, you're still getting out and doing things. You can say, hey, I went camping. But if you need to use the bathroom, you can just walk inside to a flushy toilet.
A flushy toilet with no bugs rooting around in there, and no children screaming because a spider is 10 feet away from their head. Just there were positives as we were driving back. I tried to think of the positives, like, what, there were some cool moments, but there was no way. It was the wind. We could not do another night of wop 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 wop. There was no way.
Yeah, and in a tent or a pop up like that, there's just no avoiding it.
Yeah, we learned that the hard way. And there were neighbors by us who had a tent underneath a tree, so it was cool for them. Like our site was just, there was no tree. There's not a single tree. And I guess we wondered, like, wow, there's like a site by the lake. That's awesome. I'm assuming the experienced people were like, oh, but there's no shade. So you're just going to roast out there in this convection oven fueled by a lake. So
fun stuff.
Yeah, it was fun. But so that was my camping adventure. P, I think I'll take your advice next time. Maybe we'll just do a tent. And I think we need, I think bikes are a good idea. Because again, we have a roof rack, so we can easily get the bikes on there.
Just do that. I'm sure you have a little bike contraption where you could just strap the little one in and just go.
Possibly. We have a little contraption where we can tow. We can tow Gwen.
That's even better. Because then you could also tow snacks, such as water.
We can tow. See, you're thinking ahead. We tried to think ahead. We did our best. Nothing else. We tried.
An attempt was made. And I would dare say it was
made.
a very successful attempt.
Well, I would say 40% success. 40%. That's not going to get me to the next grade.
Don't sell yourself short. You spent a full night outside in nature.
This is true. I mean, in a pop-up camper, but still, this is very true. I will give you know what? I will take the dad win.
There you go.
And I will take that as well.
This is like getting, most of the way through the game, and then you can't beat the final boss. You don't have time, so you just YouTube the ending.
That's it. That's what I did. That's what I did with Hollow Knight. I got the bad ending. I tried another boss, and it was too much. And I said, well, taking the dad win. And then watched the other endings. I'm like, that wasn't worth it. I'm glad I didn't spend another 20 hours on this. Anyway, so Pete, thank you for listening to my Tale of Woe. And thank you at home for also listening to this Tale of Woe. I guess as I go through it, not a complete failure, I guess, as I go through the escapade. But if you enjoyed this show, this is a rarity. This is just a random, I don't want to say filler episode. It's not filler, but this is a side episode that gives me the opportunity to spend more time on the main episodes. And if you enjoyed it, awesome. And if you're here listening to the end, then clearly you did. So thank you, regardless, for checking out the show. And until next time, just continue being awesome and stay cool and stay out of nature. It is horribly, horribly inconvenient.